All right, I guarantee you, your bike needs this. And I'm talking about you. If your bike's just a few years old or definitely approaching 10 years or older, you need to change your brake fluid. I guarantee it. We're going to do that today, show you how to do it, and show you the huge difference it's going to make. All right, we've already popped the cover off the rear. I wasn't sure how difficult it was going to be, and the lighting's really bad, but we're going to get a flashlight and try to show you. But on this bike, this is our 2008 Lowrider. The brake pads itself are not bad. They've still got decent amount of life, but the rear brake is so squishy and unresponsive that it just feels terrible, and there's no confidence in braking. The front, not too bad, but if you look here, you can see that brake fluid's been leaking out of here. So I bet you the front brake fluid is much newer than the rear, although the cap on the rear is also very crusty as well. This one, not too bad. So what we're going to do is we're going to swap the caps. We're going to put the nicer one in the rear, because some point this winter this is either going to get changed out or we're going to switch to a whole new unit. We're going to go ahead and bleed the brakes today, even though we're probably going to change out this master. That's not a big deal, because this cost us like $7. We're going to change the fluid, and the ride quality of this bike is going to change drastically. All right, so we're going to need a couple tools, but really to get this job done, two things that are going to help you out the most. One is this like brake fluid syringe kit. You're going to be able to draw the fluid through. That's going to help out tremendously. Also, we need brake fluid. So we have a small bottle of brake fluid here. There's a reason we bought the small bottle. If you're just doing one bike, do not buy that big Econo bottle of brake fluid. Don't do it. The reason why the brake fluid sucks after a certain amount of time is it's hydroscopic or hydroscopic, whatever. What happens is the brake fluid will absorb the moisture in the air, and that gets it really squishy. It doesn't compress right, and it just doesn't work. It needs to be just brake fluid, because all this really is a hydraulic line. Water, moisture, all that, you're gonna have air in that. That ruins it. You can't do that. So you don't want to buy the big bottle that you're going to use half the bottle, put the cap and put it on the shelf, and then maybe a couple years from now, or let's say even 5 years, you want to change your brake fluid again. Well, the brake fluid you have in that reservoir is the same brake fluid that you now have in the bottle. It's not going to be as dirty, but it's still going to be full of water and air. So only buy the small bottles, or only buy enough for what you're going to use. If you got two bikes or multiple things you're going to do, sure, go ahead. But don't fall into the pitfall of getting those huge bottles and then have them sit on your shelf. So many people do it. Just buy the small bottle, and if you have another project in 6 months or a year, just go get another one. Don't store this stuff. It's not how you're supposed to do it. All right, I don't know how well you can see it. The fluid doesn't look as bad as I thought it would, but it is still kind of grimy in there. We're going to get all that extracted and put fresh fluid in. Look how disgustingly green and yellow that is. That is nasty. All right, we've got most of the fluid out of the reservoir. We popped this open. We put the tube on here. Now we're going to draw the fluid out. And that looks way better. Now we have to be careful not to drain the reservoir, because that will put air in it. But this is already looking so much better than what was in there. Alright, we're going to tighten her down, and we're going to fill the reservoir back up and do this again. All right, we most definitely have been making a mess. Brake fluid is very corrosive, so make sure to spray all this down, wipe it all down. We're going to fill the reservoir up one more time. That brake fluid's looking way cleaner than what came out of there, so that's good. We're going to clean all this up, and we're going to jump to the front. One thing that I would change about doing all this is a much higher quality syringe setup. The Amazon one just ain't quite cutting it for what we need to do. We probably could have shortened the hose. That would help. I might do that for the front. But yeah, still something that obviously needs to be done, and we're going to get much better performance out of it for it. But our syringe setup is just pretty weak. All right, now that the rear is pretty much done, we're going to pop open the front. We'll turn this, well, it needs to be kind of straight. All right, we're going to pop open the front and try to be very careful with this. Now, the good thing is we are switching out the paint on this thing. We're going to be switching out this front reservoir for either another stock unit or an upgraded unit. Not quite sure, but I kind of wanted to make a video about this before we do all that, because the rear is not going to get switched out, so that needed to be done. We'll go ahead and take a peek at the front, even though something's going to get done with it. Because overall, oh yeah, this is a little better, but it's still pretty brown. We'll get you a closer look. I don't need a flashlight for this one. That thing looks like it is dehydrated on a summer day. It is pretty brown. So we're going to switch that out, and we're probably going to gain some pretty good brake pressure after getting that out of there. All right, let's extract what we can. All right, that's pretty much most of it. See if we can't get one more. It ain't gonna hold it. So that's pretty much what we're gonna get right there. So then we're just gonna take a rag and kind of clean up the rest. Couldn't really do this on the rear setup, but we can get down in there. But yeah, clean it up, get some brake clean, spray it all in there, get it cleaned up, and then we can fill her back up. So this is what was in the front and back of our brake system. That's pretty nasty. All right, now it's got some fresh brake fluid in it. We definitely overfilled it way too much. That's completely fine. It's obviously a little bit more than needs to be in there. We're probably going to dab some of that out, but then we're going to draw out because we need to clean out the whole system. So you need a little extra fluid in there. Again, make sure it doesn't empty out while you're draining, but let's get to it. I cannot stress this enough as we move around this bike. Keep the bike clean, keep as much brake fluid off as you can. If you do drip some on there, get it off immediately. It is very corrosive. It will ruin parts on your bike. Luckily, we're gonna paint this thing, so I'm not as stressed about it. I clean up as I go, but please keep your bike clean. Brake fluid is no joke. Real quick, guys, I wanted to tell you that this video is sponsored by me. It is hoodie season. We have one of our hoodies on. We got a lot of different hoodies. This is our Beetlejuice Never Trusted Living hoodie. It's pretty popular. If you want to check it out, wretchedclothing.com. We got beanies, jackets, flannels, all those different types of things. If you want to check us out, support the channel, and definitely support this dyna build. Well, guys, that's pretty much a wrap on this brake fluid thing. Look how dirty, nasty that brake fluid is. That's what was in the dyna. Now, I guarantee you, if you have a bike that's probably 10 years or older, your brake fluid's probably broken down and worn out. I know this probably may sound like a gimmick that dealerships and shops use, but trust me, change your brake fluid, especially if your bike is experiencing a little bit of squish on the brakes. If you've been riding it for a long time and you ride it a lot, You probably haven't noticed a slow decline in the braking system. My 05, I had redone the brakes and it was pretty spot on. When I picked up this 08, I knew right away, I was like, oh yeah, these things got to be gone through. The pads, they're fine. It wasn't actually the pads. Funny enough is the guy included a set of brake pads with this bike saying, oh yeah, the fronts have been done, but those rears, it needs new pads. It doesn't need new pads at all. It was just the brake fluid. So the job was definitely a little messy. I didn't have a pretty good syringe like I should have. We need to get all this cleaned up, but the bike's pretty much ready to go. I've wiped her down on anywhere the brake fluid was. The rear reservoir, or rear master, is much dingier than I originally thought it was. I knew the front was roached, but the rear, that's pretty bad. But you can't see it. So as long as it functions properly, I'm going to leave it alone for now. I'm not going to put it on the list of things to do. But we're going to have to revisit it when we change our exhaust. When we change the exhaust, if it gets exposed, then we're definitely going to have to change that out on this bike. But for now, she should be riding way better than she was. Comment down below, have you changed your brakes? Have you checked your fluid? How old is your bike and when's the last time you checked this? How many miles have you put on your bike and not checked the brake fluid at all? I guarantee you it'll make a phenomenal difference if you change that. If you found something helpful, hit that like button. I'd greatly appreciate it. If you have a question, comment, whatever. I know this wasn't a great way to do this, and I probably didn't do a very great job. I experienced some hurdles along the way. My front bleeder is a little stripped out. The syringe I used, absolute garbage. It got the job done, so I can't say it was absolute garbage, but as far as trying to like do this one-handed or do it in front of a camera, oh man, did we choose the wrong one. But overall, we got it done, and that's what matters. So if you don't mind, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Comment, say, hey, what's up? Hit that like button. It really helps, and I greatly appreciate it. And as always, keep it wretched.